Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Happiness Journey with Dr. Dan podcast, where every journey is worth living. My name is Dr. Dan, and I'm your host for today's episode. I'm a cognitive behavior psychotherapist specializing in anger management issues, both court appointed and private, marriage counseling, dissociative disorders, narcissistic personality disorders, depression, anxiety, dream analysis, and I also provide life, business, and retirement coaching support. If you need any assistance, reach out to DMV Counseling and Therapy Services at 301-325-1550, and our website is lifecoachdanamzalai.com. Today, I'm very excited to have on our podcast on season 2, episode 4, a very special guest, Dr. Marni Foderaro. Just like every of my past episodes, I will leave it up to the guests to properly introduce themselves, as no one can do a better job. Doc, the floor is yours.
Well, hi, Dr. Dan. Thank you so much for having me on your Happiness Journey podcast. My name's Marni Foderaro. I'm an author. I'm a retired high school teacher. I spent 35 years in a rewarding and successful career in education. 12 of those years, I was an adjunct professor at Northern Illinois University. So my upbringing and the majority of my life was spent in the Chicago suburbs. And after deciding that I needed to escape my marriage after 27 years, I realized that I was not in a very healthy situation with this person I was in a partnership with. I chose to divorce, and when I did, I had a garage sale. Turned out when you leave an abuser, oftentimes you lose your house, your money, your friends and family, neighbors, all your support system, that type of thing. So I experienced a lot of that, and in the midst had to have this garage sale. But instead of, being angry or negative or sad or, revengeful, that's just not in my nature. I'm a very empathetic, caring, loving person by nature. I just chose to handle these challenges with love and goodness. And at this garage sale, I was just in an attitude of gratitude, and some miracles came my way, kind of opened me up to some signs and synchronicities of the universe. And because of that, and because I had been dealing with domestic trauma, I needed a way to cope. And I found writing to be extremely healing for me. So I ended up writing a book called God Came to My Garage Sale. And it turned out to be a 2020 Best Books Award winning spiritual fiction. It was prominently endorsed by James Redfield, who wrote the Celestine Prophecy, as well as I got a lot of support from the IANS community, which is the International Association for Near-Death Studies, because I kind of went on a quest to investigate, these magical, mystical experiences that I had. But also in that same time frame, I was really searching out information on domestic violence and narcissistic abuse. And then when I found out not too much longer that parental alienation was part of my trauma experience, I lost an adult child at 20 years old to parental alienation. I didn't even know what that was. So I had a lot of research to do. I mean, it was extremely devastating. And, is still a very heart-wrenching experience to go so many years without contact with, one of your adult children, when everything was fine. You were a wonderful parent before you chose to get divorced. And then the campaign of denigration just, ramps up, that the abuser just wants to destroy you with everything. And when he found out he couldn't destroy me by taking all my material possessions and I luckily I still had my job and I had my health. Then, he went for the children, because that's the heartstrings. Any father or mother who is loving and normal range, having a child ripped away from them is pretty traumatic. So, but anyway, I ended up choosing happiness and choosing to continue to live my life with goodness and compassion and honesty and love. And that has really served me well. And also, as a result, when I retired from teaching after my 35-year career, I moved to the Caribbean. So I chose to surround myself with just a beautiful environment. And it's been, I've been here about 2.5 years. And, the journey for healing from this is a long one. And, but with my writing and with my attitude of gratitude, I think I really have turned a big corner on this. And so I'm speaking out and I'm writing because I would like to, not only is it healing for me, but I'd like to give hope to others that find themselves in a very dark place, and in realizing after many years, maybe they've been in a toxic situation and they need to start really taking care of themselves, that there is hope, and that there are many, many reasons to be grateful and to carry on. So that's what my message is.
Well, congratulations for having the courage to be able to get away from a narcissistic person. So what I really like to discuss primarily is, I'm sure that a lot of listeners out there are, possibly in a very toxic relationship. Not necessarily that the person is narcissistic, but in another form of toxicity. So if you could tell people, what made you decide, like, what was the time, the awakening time, where you said enough is enough after 27 years? I mean, we're talking about, you passed the 7-year itch, okay?
Yeah.
The 15-year, usually this is another decisive making situation where people decide if they want to stick with the relationship or not. So you went up to 27 years. So what made you say, what, enough is enough? And I'm sure that during the 27 years, they were toxic, because a narcissistic person will always try to manipulate your feelings, manipulate your words, gaslighting, and so on and so forth. So what made you say enough is enough?
Well, that's a really good question, and I did have those red flags even before I got married, but I didn't pay attention to them. I think my desire to have a family and, just sort of live the American dream. I thought I had met my soulmate, because, these people, and they're not diagnosed narcissists, that, most of them aren't. They don't seek any kind of
No.
Help for their condition. They don't even believe they have a condition. It's always someone else, but I was just so busy living life and raising my family and my 2 beautiful children, and working full time at various jobs, not only as a teacher in the high school setting, but I would tutor and I would teach graduate school. And, so I was just very busy in my life. And I think that that's how so many years can go by. But also, you just are in denial. You don't want to acknowledge the wrongdoings of the person that you have devoted your life to, even though things, your gut intuition is telling you something is not right. I would encourage people to follow their gut intuition. If something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't right. But in my case, after the years went on, there were more and more things I found out about the wrongdoings, possible illegal activities, just things that just didn't sit right. But there was a defining moment. The one child who I'm alienated from, and my ex-spouse and myself went out for pizza one night. And I don't think he planned on a major confession that night. I think he was hoping to just say his wrongdoing and think that we would all just acknowledge it and move on, like we must have for years. But this particular one was so severe. And it involved taking large sums of money, thousands and thousands of dollars out of our child's bank account. And it just, something just didn't sit right. It was like, he makes an amazing salary. I also was a very high paid teacher. I never, even though I always had the impression I had to pinch pennies and be very frugal with our money, there was never any reason he would have to go into our child's bank account. And there were so many other money things that just didn't seem to make sense for a number of years, that is when it really kind of hit me that there's something big going on here. And I kind of, for someone who is usually talkative, I kind of went silent. And even the child was like, well, okay, Dad, it sounds weird if you needed all my money, but, they didn't even know how to react, but now, and now there's Stockholm syndrome with that alienator. That's who they are aligned with, for the last 6 or 7 years. Which is just mind blowing that, an adult child can be brainwashed, even experience the whole situation, and be brainwashed to align with the person that is doing the negative acts. But anyway, that was the light bulb moment for me. And then it was just a couple days later that I was shoved up against the wall and finger in my face saying, don't you dare divorce me, or I'll take your house, your money, your children. And I thought, who says something like that? Don't you dare divorce me. Yeah. Really, that was such a strange comment. I really thought, if anything, it would be, let's work on this. I know I might have upset you. Let's, work on our relationship, or let's talk about this situation, and if that would have happened, I might have very easily just, accepted it and moved on. The reaction of just the comment of, and the threat of, don't you dare divorce me, plus with the physical threat part of it, was just kind of shocking to me, where it really solidified, I need to get out. And I know it would be much better to plan my escape, but I was just kind of terrified, for my safety and for the well-being of our children. And so I just filed for divorce immediately.
Well, you definitely had a lot of courage, Dr. Marni. And here's the thing, you mentioned something that was a key word, and what a lot of people are afraid to leave the relationship or the marriage is because they're not prepared. You see, the thing is that when something shocking as what you've experienced yourself come into their lives, they just don't know which direction to take. And right. Because they're not prepared financially, they're afraid to leave, because where am I going to live? How I'm going to be able to feed the kids? How I'm going to do this? So they stick in the relationship. So would you, if that comes to any of our listeners in the podcast that is at this moment going through something very similar as you did, is it to keep it to themselves and prepare their escape versus confronting the situation with a narcissist? Because if you give them the tools to be aware that you're not happy and that you may file for divorce, it puts them into the defensive. And for a narcissist, this is how they could really ruin your life, by putting others in, or by staining your name, or by doing whatever it is. So what would you suggest when it comes to someone who knows that they need to escape? What do they need to do?
Well, I would say most definitely do not confront your abuser. Okay. Because just like you said, they will get in a defensive mode and ramp up their game. Once they know what you're going to do, they will try to be many, many steps ahead. You have to look at your abuser like a predator, and you are the prey, because even now, after, I filed for divorce in 2013. I am still stalked and harassed, even legally right now. And our divorce didn't even involve minor children, yet it was extremely high conflict and contentious. And you know, you have to pick and choose what to try to address, because they are so dishonest. I think dishonesty is just part of the thread of their tapestry of how they're wired. And for an honest person wanting to confront them and be reasonable, you will not get the result that you want. In fact, it will probably backfire on you. And they will use they will twist things around. And as you find out, people that have left people like this, with this, toxic disorder, you find out many years after the fact, all the different things that they were dishonest about, and how they were really setting the stage all these years for the discard. They were lining up people in their harem closet, so that in the event that you leave them or they leave you, that they can move on immediately, that kind of thing. And this happens to men and women. This is not a gender specific situation at all. But I would say to your listeners and viewers, do not confront the abuser. And in fact, whenever possible, do not even let on what your next move is or what you're going to do. And I would say one thing that you need to do early on is no contact. They say no contact is the best way to handle an abuser. And I believe that it is. The thing is that you could have friends and family that are connected to both of you. And I have found that any kind of relationship that was in any way connected needed to be severed, that I could not even trust people that were friends with both of us, or neighbors, because really the abuser has already gotten to these people years and years before the discard. And so they have filled them with not only outright lies, but half truths. So you might have gone to the hospital for a colonoscopy or something like that. But the abuser will tell your neighbors and friends that, you had a mental breakdown and had to go to the hospital.
Correct.
Well, yeah, I did go to the hospital, but it was for a medical procedure. It was not. Yeah, it was not for, so they set the stage. They have no problem enlisting anyone that they possibly can to be against you. So you're left with, realize that when you escape an abuser, you're going to be on your own in many ways. The domestic violence shelters can be helpful at times. I did seek some support with a domestic violence counselor. But they only do so much. If an abuser wants to hurt you or, file false petitions, with false allegations against you, they're just going to do it. They're going to do whatever they can to keep that mask up, to keep that false persona up for the public. Their biggest fear is rejection. Mm-hmm. And their next biggest fear is being exposed for some of the real negative things that they have done. Because if people found out really what they are capable of doing and what they have done to people that they so-called love, they won't want anything to do with them. So if you are in this situation, I would say try to plan your escape a little bit, even though it's very, very hard. Your instinct wants you to just get away from this person as much as possible, but they will take everything. So, if they are onto you, they will access all the cash that you have, all the investments, and put them. I think I found our joint investments were 95% already put in his name. By the time, the division takes place. And abusers have no problem taking your children's college fund money and forging documents. And like in my case, I was told our house was paid off for over 10 years, but the reality was that it was in foreclosure. And,
Wow.
yeah, and taxes weren't paid and all sorts of things were happening that I just, you kind of get very trusting in a marriage after so many years. You take on different responsibilities. And I, have since learned that, boy, it's very important to not just turn over
No.
the responsibilities just to one person, because they may or may not be honorable with what they're doing. So
Wow.
definitely try to strategize. A friend of mine who has a podcast and a channel, Tracy Malone, she's got narcissist abuse support. She just came out with a fantastic new book called Divorcing Your Narcissist, that actually, if you are someone that is thinking this is what you want to do, I would check out her book. You can even get the e-version, really,
Book, yeah.
inexpensive, and it's not that expensive, but that she really tells you about what to look for with finding a lawyer. I wish I would have had that advice, or I wouldn't have gone through so many lawyers that were not, skilled, they were ineffective.
There's a lot of them out there.
Yeah, they did not know. There's some good lawyers out there. But there are some that do not have your best interest, don't seem to, understand narcissist abuse or parental alienation. And just, it's almost like they are on the side of the abuser. So many people find that the innocent victims that are trying to be honest and do the right thing. I shouldn't say trying to be honest. They are honest. They are honest and trying to do the right thing, are abused by the legal system, because they look at this as an opportunity. Hey, we can make more money because this person will fight for justice.
Correct.
Where so they'll side on the abuser, because it's just mind blowing that they would, be awarded what they are awarded, when the evidence should point otherwise.
Well, that's, it's interesting that you say this, Dr. Marni, is because, the expression strength come with numbers, and the narcissistic person goes with the number of people that they can actually manipulate against you or against their spouse. And more people it's on their side, and more chances they have to be able to manipulate the whole situation, that you're the one at fault. So let's say, like you said, if you went to the hospital for a colonoscopy, then they will say it was more of a mental breakdown. So if you're a mental breakdown, you'll do anything and everything in your power to be able to cover that and not say it was for mental breakdown. So they're going to think that you're lying. And because you're lying, so everything, if you're lying for this, you may be lying for everything else. So then again, they're going to go on the side of the manipulator, which is the narcissistic person. But again, when it comes to those who are in the middle of all this, and they just don't know which other direction to take, you said, okay, prepare your exit strategy. That's one way. But if the person is physically abusive, how long can they continue being in this relationship without putting their life in danger and not have enough time to prepare their exit strategy? What do they do?
Right. Sometimes you just can't. And sometimes you just have to leave with what's on, the clothes on your back. And if you can get to your bank just to take out as much as you can. I was just shocked, to find that I had to really start from scratch with almost everything. And, so material possessions are one thing. In fact, even if you try to save family heirlooms and that kind of thing, the abuser can very easily throw those things out. And, so really you do have to look for your safety. So if you're talking about someone who is being physically abused, you might need to escape immediately, because, you don't want to be another statistic,
Correct.
of a spouse that, because they want you dead. I mean, even if I were to ever die, the first person that anyone should look into would be my ex-husband,
Correct.
because he is the only person in this whole world that wants me eliminated, wants me eradicated, wants me dead, because I am a voice of truth,
Yeah.
or I am a voice of, or I survived it. I've gone on to, even though I moved thousands of miles away, and, I can't run away from his stalking and harassment that continues, but I feel like I'm in a safer place. But you never know with these abusers. They can, you read about a story, where, the wife kills the husband, or the vice versa, or even children are murdered just to get back at their spouse for leaving them. For what? Just because they're trying to save face, for, that people might find out that they're not as honorable as they made themselves out to be. So I'd say, safety is your number one concern. And I think when I was shoved up against the wall, I felt like it was only a matter of time before that would that could even get ramped up. And so I didn't really plan a whole lot. I just filed for divorce. Now, luckily within a week he moved out of the house.
Okay.
Yeah. But I was wrongly under the impression I could stay there and still provide a nice home base for our children and keep the continuity going. I had no idea that, that everything was really gone. And, his campaign of denigration to the whole neighborhood, or to my place of employment, or family, or friends, that had already taken place. And, because that's how they roll. So I think knowledge is power. I think that, at some point, people that are surviving this need to sort of seek out podcasts like yours, or, a lot of people can't afford counseling, or, they don't have the time or the money for something like that. I didn't go the counseling route. I really, I felt pretty strong in my own belief that I was doing the right thing. I had no idea that I would lose a child to parental alienation. That was really awful. But it's, all of us are on a journey here. And, so finding out about these things can be extremely helpful. That's why I wrote the 4-book series. I recently finished. The first book is out, called True Deceit, False Love. And it's 15,555 terms on domestic violence, narcissistic abuse, and parental alienation, just for you to understand what you're going through. You need to look them up. There's too many varying definitions to make this a glossary. But I also feel what helped me a lot was searching out these terms just to make sense of what's happened, to me and to other people. Hearing other people's stories it was very helpful to see how did they handle it. But there was a lot of research that goes on, and taking care of yourself physically, with restorative sleep and organic foods and good exercise. And, so you need to really take care of yourself, especially as caregivers. We're, moms or dads who are really, just shocked to find themselves in the situation. They were probably the loving, empathetic caregiver, people that gave of themselves and let themselves go a little bit more. So you need to kind of refocus on yourself to get yourself strong, so that you can face all the repercussions that will happen after leaving your abuser, because they will happen. You can't leave someone like this and expect smooth sailing.
Oh no, there's never smooth sailing with narcissistic people. Now you mentioned about red flags before you got married. Now those red flags were they so prominent for you to know that there was something wrong with this person? that you said to yourself, that sounds fishy?
Yes, yes. And I still went on to marry this
So
person.
what were the red flags? So we could maybe let people know, those who are actually entering a relationship, because of course, if they've been single for so many years, they're so glad to find someone, but yet they're blinded by those red flags. So give us a little bit of an idea. What were the red flags, Marni?
Well, some of it is love bombing, where they kind of make you feel like you are the perfect person for them. And lots of times they will seek out people that have just left a relationship or have had some kind of family trauma, so that they are at a kind of a lower point in their life. And then they come in as the knight in shining armor to save the day. And so the love bombing, if it's almost too good to be true, that's kind of a red flag. Like, they end up liking everything that you like, whatever your belief is about anything, that will be their belief. They mirror you, and they make you believe, they put you on a pedestal and make you believe that, you finally met someone who really, really gets it. Another thing would be that they slowly isolate you. So they will talk bad about a friend that you have, or if you like a particular movie, or if you like going to music concerts, they will put down the artists that you are interested in. They will talk about how their music is really not that good. I mean, and you think, well, why would they have a comment about that? That just seems strange. So you will find yourself, a red flag is that you're isolated, that they will tell you, oh, don't hang around with that neighbor, because I saw them doing something one time, and then you're like, wow, oh gosh, okay, thank you for giving me the heads up.
Yes.
When really that was all made up, that person probably would have been a great friend, but they didn't want you connecting with that person. So they put that person down so that you would kind of question yourself and your own, picking and choosing of people, and make you, with the gaslighting, like you said, they make you kind of question your own choices on things.
But then
Another thing would be being very inflexible. Like, there was one time that I found out another wrongdoing, something very immoral that my then boyfriend, and later husband and ex-husband, was involved in. And I confronted him on that. And of course, the defenses came up, and, it was denial or whatever it was, but it was very clear to me, the wrongdoing that happened. And we had dinner reservations to go to this major restaurant downtown Chicago, very special dinner reservations. Well, I did not want to go. I didn't want to be in the car with him going to Chicago, let alone sitting and spending a lot of money at a restaurant, when I was very unhappy with this person, really even questioning whether I wanted to continue dating him.
Yeah.
But he basically forced me, I guess people can't force you completely, but, whatever, we ended up taking the drive to Chicago, going to that dinner. But the whole time I was just not comfortable with it at all. But I just still, whatever case he made, I mean, it was so long ago, I don't remember the exact details, but for whatever reason, talked me into going, despite everything was telling me, not only don't go to this dinner, don't spend the evening with this, guy, but get away from him and think about, breaking it off completely. And so that is a red flag too. Just, the isolation, the gut feeling, the inflexibility, forcing you, and just putting down friends and family around you.
So basically, like, when they tell you to not, like, for a neighbor that can be potentially a good friend, a good support, they will put them down, and then they're going to use that same person to be able to go against you, because they're going to use that tool to say, well, look how snob she is, or look how this, or like that.
Right.
They have a lot of different strategy, and the irony here, Marni, is that When I deal with narcissistic couple, okay, either the husband is narcissist or the wife, it's very difficult to reason with them. But if you could actually make them realize that their behavior is based on childhood trauma, because something happened in the
Right.
past where they were the victim and they said to themselves, I will never put myself in that situation. And whoever I encounter, I will be the predator and they will be the prey. So it's more of a role reversion of their behavior. They want to become now in control, while when they were in the bad situation, they were being controlled. So this is
Right.
again their mentality, and they want to be able to. So it's a defense mechanism. So, but if it's kind of like they start believing themselves as being the predator, it's very hard to be able to start changing their mind because they're afraid to becoming or to become more controlled by someone else. And that again is very hard to deal with.
Right. You bring up just such a great point, because I think that because I've done some research and for a number of years here, and realized that the abusers really are were the abused themselves, and that they were traumatized, and that they've, you know, like you said, I'm not going to let this happen to me. I'm going to be in control of this. But these abusers do become extremely manipulative and controlling and malevolent. They really do. And I think part of my healing was realizing, kind of forgiving and forgiving myself mostly for being in this situation, but having a little bit of compassion for who they really are, and they will, for the whole time I was married, all I heard was I had a perfect childhood from my ex-husband. My childhood was perfect. Yours was not, but I have absolutely no complaints. But then when I would actually see, his parents interact with him, and, I didn't get that impression. And in fact, his mother would actually go on to share all sorts of things with me over the years, that would be in complete opposition to what, this
Yes.
false front that they're putting up. So, but it doesn't mean that you should, completely forgive them and go back to being abused and stuff like that. But at least having some understanding of it can help you understand why such bad things happen to good people, because it's not a reflection on you. It's really a reflection on them dealing with, their own inadequacies. They are, they're very insecure, unhappy people.
Yes. You are right, Marni. Very, very.
Very insecure and unhappy people. And they're not that, they come across as, I'm the best looking, I am the smartest, I am the wealthiest, I am, I have what it takes to do all of that. And it's really the opposite. They you forgive a lot of things because, you're trauma bonded almost in a way with these people.
It is a facade. It is a facade that they put up.
Right.
The thing is that, again, it's because of them being controlled in the past, and them actually have this kind of anger that they keep from within. And they just say to themselves, there's nothing I will allow, because they have to protect themselves as well. So like the law of the jungle, either you're being the predator or you're being the prey. There's no in between.
Right. And it's all black or white. It's not like a gray, and then unfortunately what happens with parental alienation is these adult children kind of look at, there's only one good parent and one bad parent.
Correct.
When really that's not the case at all. We're all human. We all, most of us did the best we could raising our kids and making the best decisions, looking out for their well-being and providing love and stability and fun times. But the abuser, these adult children have seen how the abuser treats the targeted ex-spouse.
Correct.
And they don't want to be treated that way. It's almost safer for them to just drop the loving parent because they know that that person's love is unconditional.
Correct.
They
Yes.
know that down the road, if they ever decide to reunite,
I'll be accepting them. Yeah.
right, that there would be, more chance of open arms and that type of thing. So there's a lot of reasoning for it, but it's that same kind of, all or nothing, all good, all bad.
Absolutely. So tell our listeners, where can they find your books, Marni?
Well, so the True Deceit, False Love book is out on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and the publisher I use is Balboa Press, which is a division of Hay House. This is a 4-book series. I really highly recommend anyone going through challenging toxic situations, even if it's a toxic situation at work with a boss or a coworker. This can be extremely helpful. Like I said, it was prominently endorsed by Dr. Jennifer Harmon, who is a researcher out of Colorado for parental alienation. Dr. Sam Vaknin also, wrote my introduction of this book. There are books 2 and 3, which are acrostic poetry book and a survivor's workbook. They are coming out in a few weeks.
Okay.
So in January, you can find them, as well as my first spiritual fiction, God Came to My Garage Sale. They are all on Amazon or Barnes and Noble or Balboa Press Hay House. And I am not on social media, but I do have a website, which is the title of my spiritual fiction. So www.godcametomygarage-sale.com. And there you can find my books, order my books, look at different interviews that I have done addressing spirituality, but also addressing domestic violence, narcissistic abuse, parental alienation. And I provide a lot of resources for people to just kind of learn about some of the different influencers out there. Even the people that have endorsed my books are people that have really were game changers for me when I was going through this and seeking out information.
Beautiful, beautiful, Dr. Marni. Well, that is all the time that we have for today's episode. I do appreciate you, Dr. Marni, for taking the time out of your very, very busy schedule to join us. Thank you so much for participating and inspiring our many listeners with your incredible story. Now, we hope that you have all enjoyed today's episode. I'm very excited about the many upcoming guests that we have scheduled for the Happiness Journey podcast, season 2, filled with inspirational stories, just like the one that you listened to today. Now, here are a few concluding words of wisdom. There are 3 simple rules in life. 1, if you do not go after what you want, you'll never get it. 2, if you do not ask, the answer will always be no. And finally, 3, if you do not step forward, you'll always be in the same place. Always remember that life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning how to dance in the rain. Yes, you will get wet, but during extreme heat, metaphorically speaking, it can be very refreshing. Never fear the unknown, as fear is constructed by your mind and it isn't real. On the opposite end, fearlessness is like a muscle. More you exercise it, more nature it will become, and don't let fear run your life. You are in control, so make sure to focus on what you can do instead of what you can do. My name is Dr. Dan Amzalai, and you may all keep pursuing your amazing journey in life.